What's up, YouTube? With the update hopefully coming soon, I want to go over my proposed balance changes. Hasn't been that long since we've balance changes, but the meta does feel a little bit stale. Obviously, Frank is super strong, and in general, the top 5 brawlers in the game, besides Frank, has pretty much remained the same, even with the most recent balance changes. So I want to propose my own balance changes. I got about 5 buffs, 5 nerfs, pretty much, and we're going to go over them right now. We'll start out with the nerfs. Of course, the most obvious nerf that needs to happen, in my opinion, is Frank. Obviously, Frank is so strong, and in my opinion, he just gets his super way too quickly. So I want to change how long it takes to get a super from 3 hits to 4 hits, and I think that alone would probably be a good enough nerf to Frank. If you want to add another nerf to Frank, I'd probably change the range of his super back to what it was before, because his super is insanely strong right now. So I could also see a nerf to his super, and I would probably agree with it, because right now, if he has his super, I mean, you pretty much have to play a game of chicken. You just got to stay at the edge of his super range and maybe go forward, go backwards, and hope he just wastes it, because otherwise, there's not much you can do once he gets that super. Even if he does have his super take 4 hits to get, once he stuns you, it's still super strong. Even if you're like a tank at full health, you're almost guaranteed to be dead. So Frank needs a nerf for sure. Now, another brawler I think needs a nerf, actually got a nerf last time, but is still a really strong brawler, is Poco. I'd like to see Poco slide out of the meta a little bit. I think Poco just still does too much damage. You see Poco, of course, has a really long range. It can hit multiple people really quickly, really well. And I think one thing I want to do, this would be, in my opinion, probably a kind of small nerf, is just change the attack delay on Poco's shot. So Poco can't just spam shots really fast, get his super right away just from hitting a couple people being in range. What I would do, change Poco's attack delay from 0.3 seconds to 0.5. So it's a point, might seem like a big nerf, but there's still going to be 7 brawlers who have a longer attack delay than Poco. So this really wouldn't be a huge change to Poco, but I think this will be good because it'd be a little bit harder to just spam shots with Poco. I find that a little bit annoying how Poco can just spam shots so quickly, because one of the buffs before Poco got a buff was Poco's attack now is a lot faster. So now Poco can spam those shots, get that super really quickly. Any sort of situation where Poco's just able to do that, Poco just can go fire all his shots really quick. I think this would be a good nerf to Poco. Not an overwhelming nerf. If you think Poco needs another nerf, another small one I would do is maybe make his super take 1 hit longer to charge. Okay, Spike, in my opinion, really needs a nerf. He is a top 5 brawler in every single game mode, pretty much, maybe except for Bounty, but he's still pretty good in Bounty, especially depending on the map. Spike is just strong everywhere. I mean, I know he's a legendary, but I think he needs a nerf. In my opinion, I'd give him a damage nerf. I'd give him about an 8% damage nerf to his main attack. I'd either do that or I would do some sort of nerf to his supercharging. He can charge up his super fairly quickly. It's not the strongest super, so that's why I want to go with the damage nerf instead, though. I think Spike has the ability to do a lot of damage, and he really needs a damage nerf in my opinion. The other thing I would do, this isn't a nerf, in my opinion, it might be a buff even, but I think this would add more skill to the game, and I really want to see it, is make Spike's attacks, like his set pattern for his spikes, not be random. Make it a set pattern. Whenever you do attack with Spike, his spikes just go randomly. And I would like it to be a set pattern. That way you can add a little bit more skill to the game. That way, when someone hits that shot where there's just need that one spike hit to get that kill, it's not that, oh man, so lucky. It's the, oh man, that was a good shot. That's what I want to see happen. I think that'd be a good way to add a little bit more depth to the game instead of everything just being, auto aim. Okay, another brawler that needs a nerf is Tara. Tara's been a top 5 brawler for a long time, and Tara's super is insanely strong. So, of course, gotta nerf Tara's super. I'd either do one of 2 things. I'd decrease the range of Tara's super by 1 tile. Now, this in itself isn't probably that much of a nerf to Tara because, I mean, a lot of times you aren't doing that full range pull from Tara. So this would probably be not even that big of a change. It would just do a little bit of those crazy interactions where someone is running away, and you would not be able to get that as often now, which would be good. The other thing I might do, and I'm not entirely sure about this, let me know what you think, is increasing the gravity of Tara's gravity well. That's what her super is called, gravity well. Increasing the gravity of it, making enemies be pulled towards the center in my opinion, 33% faster. So that way they're getting pulled there faster. What this does is they can respond faster to Tara now. So Tara supers them, they can now start attacking Tara a little bit sooner. Or if they're Poco, they can heal a little bit sooner. Whatever it is, they can respond faster to Tara because they're not being stunned for as long. It interrupts whatever they're doing for the duration of that pull. Now they're being pulled faster, they can respond faster. I think that would be an interesting nerf to Tara, and that would probably be the way to nerf Tara's super and not have it be quite as OP. My last nerf, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this, but it's another brawler that's been top 5 for a long time, is Nita. And I do like Nita a lot. Nita for a long time was not very good. Nita a long time was a one-trick pony just in gem grab. Now you're seeing Nita in other places as well, so it's maybe not needed, but you could nerf Nita and I would be okay with it. I would give Nita a small nerf. A 5% health nerf, in my opinion, would be a good thing for Nita. Nita has a really, really high amount of health. And especially for this meta, you see some of these next buffs. Nita is also going to get an indirect buff with some of these next brawlers that I'm giving buffs to. So I think this would be justified in that sense as well. Okay, let's go into the buffs. The brawler I really want to see buffed right now is Mortis. Come on, Mortis has just never been good for the longest time. Look, even if you give Mortis a huge buff and he becomes OP, I would be okay with it, at least for, you know, whatever that meta is. Let Mortis be really strong for one meta, that's fine with me. So here's what I would do. I'd give Mortis an 8% buff to his main attack damage and his super attack damage. Give Mortis more damage. I think he's got a good amount of health. He's got that speed, and of course his dash is fine. The only other thing I would argue is a reload speed buff, but I want to give him a damage buff. I mean, right now, he already 3-shots the lowest health brawlers in the game, so it's not changing any of those interactions. I think this will be good, though. Allow him to deal a little bit better with tanks and mid-range brawlers such as Shelly, Nita, Tara. Well, maybe not Shelly, but some of those other brawlers, Mortis is going to be able to do a little bit better now versus. I don't want to give him more health. I think he already has that ability to get close to brawlers right now. And of course, auto aim is still really a problem, but if you can make him do a little bit more damage, I think that would be a good buff to Mortis. What about another brawler that's been bad for a really long time? Honestly, a one-trick pony, I guess. It's Bo. I want to give Bo a buff, and I'm giving Bo a reload speed buff, about a 12% reload speed buff, decreasing his reload speed time from 1.7 seconds to 1.5. Now, I really think this is the direction to go with Bo. I wouldn't change his mines. I wouldn't change... I mean, you could change his star power, but that would just be a weird way to buff him. You could change his damage. I'd be okay with that, too. This is another way to change his damage. Bo's attack is really unique because whatever way you strafe left, you strafe... If you move left or you move right, his attack reacts differently. It shoots differently. So I think this is a good way to keep that the same and not rely so much on just being lucky with your shots, but this way you can get more shots in and you still have to have that skill element with Bo of shooting his shots correctly, moving the right way while you're shooting to get those shots to hit. And this will be a good buff to Bo, make him a good amount stronger, get him more damage. It also would probably get him a little bit more of his super though too, so you could argue against that as well, but I think Bo really, really does need a buff. Okay, now this brawler, it's sort of a buff and a nerf. This brawler needs a rework in my opinion. It's Penny. Okay, Penny's projectile is the worst in the game by, like, bar none. It's honestly pretty hard to hit consistently from long range. It's easily the hardest main attack to hit in the game, in my opinion, and it's not that close. And if you look at how Supercell's, like, Brawl Stars works, they had to add auto aim in the game because of how hard it is to aim. And with Penny, that's no exception. Penny is the worst brawler to aim right now. You really, really need to increase Penny's projectile size. The only reason Penny is any good right now at all is because of her cannon. It's not because of her main attack. So in my opinion, you got to increase the projectile You got to increase the projectile size of Penny. I'm going to increase it by 25%. Now, of course, it's going to be a big buff to Penny, so you got to give her a nerf as well. So I'm going to reduce the range of Penny's mortar by 1 tile. Go from 12 tiles to 11 tiles. This is going to be a decent nerf to her mortar. You could argue another one as well. I don't know how big of a buff a projectile size buff really is. Probably a really big one. So you could give another nerf to her mortar as well because it is insanely strong right now. Maybe on the fire speed of it, I would do a really small nerf to that because sometimes you can be running straight away as a normal speed brawler and you still can't dodge it. So, but that could just be a matter of learning how to dodge her turret as well. Another thing you could do with Penny is her star power is pretty useless. It's one of the worst star powers in the game, and it doesn't make sense either. Similar to how when Poco's star power was when he died, he healed people. That was Poco's old star power. Penny's star power is when her long-range turret, the longest range in the game as far as attacks go, is when that turret dies, stuff explodes around it. That just doesn't make sense. It's the longest range thing in the game, and you're going to have people have to be close to it for it to work. That doesn't make sense to me. I would change Penny's star power as well. Maybe make it so when Penny's mortar fires, you can make it like Brock's. There's fire on the ground for whenever Penny's cannonballs hit on the ground. You can do something like that. There's a lot of different directions you would go that would make a lot more sense than what it currently is. Alright, now we're going to get into some buffs for tanks. I want to get this tank meta started. Tanks have been out of the meta for a long time. Ever since the size of projectiles were increased, tanks pretty much got killed. So, let's increase the damage of El Primo. El Primo's been at the bottom of ranking lists for a long time, except because of Frank. But I'm giving Frank a nerf. El Primo is a good counter to Frank, so El Primo's going to go back to the bottom. So he really needs a buff. I'm going to give El Primo an 8% damage buff. And that's the direction I would go with Frank. Dang it, I keep saying Frank. I mean El Primo. I'm giving El Primo an 8% damage buff. He really needs more damage as the shortest range tank, in my opinion. His damage just doesn't seem that much. Yes, he has a fast reload speed, but reload speed doesn't matter when you're only going to get 2 or 3 hits in on someone, hopefully before they're dead. Because as a tank, you don't want to be spending that much more time than that. Especially when you compare it to Bull or Daryl, how fast they can kill people at close range. It's not nearly the same speed as El Primo. He needs a damage buff. Okay, I got the last two. I'm giving Bull and Daryl a buff as well. You gotta start this tank meta, they need a buff. I'm giving them a 5% health buff. This isn't a big buff to them, but I think it's sort of needed. They sort of just feel a little bit underwhelming right now. I don't think I'd give them more damage. They already deal a lot of damage at close range. I don't want to make their supercharge faster. Reload speed doesn't really matter, so pretty much the main direction to go with a buff for them is increasing their health. That's one of the only ways I'd probably give them a buff. And I'd give them 5% one. I don't want to go crazy. I don't want them to be crazy strong. I kind of don't love like tanks being super strong, but this will make them pretty good, and that's the direction I think we should go with this meta. Alright guys, that's going to be it for my balance change proposals. Let me know what you think below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.